Anyway, I'm going to ask you to use your hands again. And we're going to talk about interdependence. But you can't talk about one thing without talking about the things that are interdependent on it. And so I'm going to ask you to pick up your hands if you're comfortable to do so. And I'm going to ask you to express interdependence by weaving your fingers together. Interdependence. Then I'm going to ask you to express independence. Then I'm going to ask you to express dependence. And because there is nothing only good in this universe, I'm going to ask you to express the idea of a certain unhealthiness, codependence. Let's do it one more time. Use your hands, feel your hands. Interdependence. Independence. Dependence. Codependence. I looked up the word interdependence. I wish I could say I looked it up in a big fat dictionary with those nice shiny black thumb things with the gold letters on them, but I looked it up online. And it had both synonyms and antonyms for interdependence. And it said the antonym for interdependence is independence. And I immediately knew I did not agree with that. Because interdependence means a lot of things, and in the reading that I believe comes from the shared values of Unitarian Universalist communities, interdependence talks about a spiritual interdependence, that all things are interdependent upon one another. But the question arose in my mind that I want to throw out to all of us, because I don't give sermons, I do talks and interactive conversations. Does one have to sacrifice their independence in order to be interdependent? And how is it that we can be both things? Interdependent and independent, although it might seem there's a chasm in between. It's in the chasm in between things where the most potential exists. We're about to also start this week in the Hebrew lectionary, so to speak, the book of Numbers. In Hebrew, the book of Numbers is called Bamidbar. It means in the wilderness. Numbers comes from the fact that it begins with a census of the people that were traveling in the wilderness. But the Hebrew title is Bamidbar, in the wilderness. Because it's in the wilderness that the true potential of the people became actualized. Even though, as Jacob said, when he awoke in the middle of nowhere, supposedly, God is in this place and I didn't know it. It's in the in-between. It's in those liminal moments. It's in the decision time between question and answer, between puzzle and response. Because without that little hesitation, our highest wisdom doesn't have a chance to exist. So I'll ask, and I'm throwing this out to you as a question, does one need to be sacrificing independence for feeling interdependent? Okay, anybody want to say a couple words about that? No. Okay, I'm done. Right. I know there's also the concept of dependence. We feel as if we are dependent. We are all dependent. None of us is completely independent. Everyone is dependent in some way. We're dependent on the people who check us out in the supermarket. We're dependent on the people who, create our food in the fields and do all of the things that are unseen. We make a blessing over bread and say, who brought forth bread from the earth. Bread is not coming from the earth unless you live someplace differently than I do. But it takes a lot of hands. Speaking of hands again, our hands are very powerful. They're very expressive. And so, in the story of Ruth, we kind of forget about Orpah, not Oprah. That's very different. This is Orpah. And I'm not sure that it might not have been a mistake in the creation of her name where the letters got switched, but the name in the scripture is Orpah. We don't usually think of her. She offered to go. And Naomi said, no, don't go. And so she left. We give great glory to Ruth for staying with Naomi. But we don't spend a lot of time thinking about Orpah's decision. She felt interdependent and dependent on her mother-in-law, but she decided to make a decision differently and left, went back to her family. And so we can't ever think of ourselves, even in the most isolated way, that we are independent of other people. Codependency, there's enough psychologists and healthcare professionals in this room and mental health professionals, I don't have to describe that, but it usually describes a power differential, where somebody is being controlled and somebody is controlling, and it meets both of their needs in some way. But I want us to be thinking about the higher concept of interdependence. And the way this woman, I don't recall your name, unfortunately, about the chasing Carl, yes, was talking about how every system depends on each other. It's a way of thinking about the world. It's a way of thinking about ourselves. We are unitary creatures, but we can't survive on our own. We really do depend on the life and goodwill of other people. And so I just want to be thinking about that now in a world that feels as if we are not like this, we're like this. And, this hand is punching this way and this hand is punching this way, and in order to create at least some place of peace for ourselves. But we cannot cut ourselves off. We must be both independent, interdependent, and dependent. Codependency is a whole other issue, but we can't live as if we are only in one spot along that way of being connected to other people. We simply cannot exist that way. And if we do have that conception, every time it's challenged, it causes us pain because we need somebody, we need something, we need some other agency to enter into our lives. So I think about Ruth, and I think about Naomi, and I think about Orpah. I think about the way Boaz, the relative of these women, embraced them and brought them in. He protected them. They were dependent upon him. He cared for them, and because of that really incredible open-heartedness, peoples and families got to expand and create other peoples and families. And so, interdependence, yes. Independence, yes. Dependence, yes. And I hope that all of us can live on that spectrum in a healthy way and not feel it's in some way a weakness to be dependent on other people, and interdependent as an aspirational place to be, and independent in ways that we are capable of directing our own lives. And so for all of those things, I give you a little bit of a, little hand, and may the work of your hands be the work you hope they will be.